I want to thank each of you for your hard work and commitment on education. And I believe that education is the one true path out of poverty. It is the great equalizer in our society. And as the President said in his weekly address on Saturday, there are few issues that speak more directly to the long-term prosperity of our nation than education. Education is the one issue that must rise above ideology and above politics. We can all agree that we have to educate our way to a better economy. We currently have an unprecedented opportunity to reform our nation's schools so they are preparing all of our students for success in college and in careers. Today, Chairman Miller, as you pointed out, the status quo clearly is not good enough. Consider just a few statistics. 27% of America's young people drop out of high school. That means 1.2 million teenagers are leaving our schools for the streets. That is economically unsustainable and morally unacceptable. In a recent international test of math literacy, our 15-year-olds scored 24th out of 29 developed nations. In science, our 15-year-olds ranked 17th out of 29 nations. And just 40% of young people earn a 2-year or 4-year college degree. The U.S. now ranks 10th in the world in the rank of college completion for 25 to 34-year-olds. A generation ago, we were first in the world, but we've fallen behind. The global achievement gap is growing. If we are serious about preparing our nation's young people to compete in a global economy, we must do better. Through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, we have built a foundation for reform. All states are reporting the progress they're making on 4 areas of reform: raising standards, developing and recruiting excellent teachers and leaders, using data to inform instruction, and turning around our lowest performing schools. In the Race to the Top Fund, we've identified 16 finalists for the first phase. We've invited all the finalists to present about their plans, and we'll be announcing the winners during the first week in April. The winners will blaze the trail on reforms that will improve student achievement for decades to come. To promote reforms in every state, I'm committed to working with you in 2010 to reauthorize the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. It's been more than 8 years since Congress last reauthorized ESEA through the No Child Left Behind Act. That's the longest gap between reauthorizations in the 45-year history of ESEA. We all recognize that NCLB had its flaws, and the time to fix those problems is now. My staff and I have reached out to listen and learn from people across the country and to hear what they think about NCLB. My senior staff and I visited every state on our listening and learning tour. We met with parents, teachers, and students themselves. We've engaged in literally hundreds of conversations with stakeholders representing all sections of the education community. In all of our conversations, we've heard a consistent message that our schools aren't expecting enough of our students. We need to raise our standards so that all students are graduating prepared to succeed in college and in the workplace. We've also heard that people aren't looking to Washington for answers. They don't want us to provide a prescription for success. Our role should be to offer a meaningful definition of success, one that raises the bar and shows teachers and students what they should be striving for. With those lessons in our mind, we have developed our blueprint for ESEA reauthorization. We have shared that with you, Mr. Chairman, and I ask that the blueprint be entered into the record of this hearing. In this blueprint, you'll see that everything is organized around our 3 major goals for reauthorization. First, raising standards. Secondly, rewarding excellence in growth. And third, increasing local control and flexibility while maintaining a laser-like focus on equity and closing achievement gaps. All of these policy changes will support our effort to meet the President's goal that by 2020, America once again will lead the world in college completion. In particular, the ESEA will set a goal that by 2020, all students will graduate ready to succeed in college and in the workplace. We will build an accountability system that measures the progress that states, districts, and schools are making towards meeting that goal. We have a comprehensive agenda to help us meet that goal. It starts with asking states to adopt standards that truly prepare students for success in college and careers. Governors and chief state school officers of 48 states are doing the tough job of setting these standards in reading and in math. The leadership at the local level has been remarkable, and their effort is supported by both major unions and by the business community. In our proposal, we call on states to adopt college and career-ready standards, either working with other states or by getting their higher education institutions to certify the standards are rigorous enough to ensure students graduate ready to succeed in college-level classes or to enter the workplace. But standards alone aren't enough. We'll need a new generation of assessments that measure whether students are on track for success in college and careers. We will support the effort to develop those assessments so they will measure higher-order skills, provide accurate measures of student progress, and give teachers the information they need to improve student achievement. These standards and assessments are key parts of our effort to redefine accountability. Under NCLB, the federal government greatly expanded its role in holding schools accountable. It did several things right, and I'll always give NCLB credit for its important contributions to education reform. It required all states to be included in the accountability system, including minority students, students with disabilities, and English language learners. It required states, districts, and schools to report test scores disaggregated by student subgroups, exposing achievement gaps like never before. We know the achievement gap is unacceptably large, and teachers and school leaders throughout the country are working and mobilizing to address that problem. NCLB was right to create a system based on results for students, not just on inputs. But NCLB's accountability system needs to be fixed now. There are way too many perverse incentives. It allows, even encourages, states to lower standards. It doesn't measure growth, and it doesn't reward excellence. It prescribes the same interventions for schools with very different needs. It encourages a narrowing of the curriculum and focuses on test preparation. It labels too many schools with the same failing label regardless of their challenges. It encouraged schools to focus their efforts on only that tiny percent of students close to the proficiency bar and neglect the vast majority above or below that line. We need adults focused on all children, not on any small handful in a classroom or in a school. We can't sustain momentum for reform if we don't have a credible accountability system that addresses these issues. Our proposal will make significant improvements on accountability. The biggest and most important one is that it will use student academic growth as the most important measure of whether schools, districts, and states are making progress. I'm much more interested in growth and gain than absolute test scores, as long as students are on a path towards meeting those standards. Under our plan, we will reward schools, districts, and states that are making the most progress. At the same time, we'll be tough-minded in our lowest performing schools and schools with large achievement gaps that aren't closing. Although the schools will be given flexibility to meet performance targets, working under their state and local accountability systems. If we get accountability right, we'll provide the right incentives to increase student achievement, and I'm confident America's students, teachers, and principals will deliver.